Chapter 1. The Beast Beneath the Moon. The moon bled crimson that night. It rose like an omen over the borderlands, casting a savage glow across the forest as steel clashed with claw and fury. Valen moved through the chaos like living fire. His blade was an extension of his will, swift, merciless, final. Every strike split the air with a hiss of molten heat as the bloodfire within him blazed to life. The rogues screamed, their howls torn away by the burning wind that followed his wrath. But victory never felt like triumph. Not when his warriors trembled behind him. Not when every heartbeat felt like a warning. Hold the line. Valen's command tore through the smoke. Yet even his elite blood guard dared not draw too near. The heat around him shimmered like a living storm, the earth itself cracking under his boots. He was their king, yes, but when the bloodfire took hold, even loyalty had its limits. "Fall back, my king," his general pleaded. "The curse, it's turning wild again." Valen's snarl ripped through the air. "I am not the curse." The words were a lie he wanted to believe. But the truth lived in the way his warriors flinched when his gaze met theirs. In the way they looked at him, not as savior, not as ruler, but as a weapon they prayed never turned against them. When the last rogue fell, silence reclaimed the field. Smoke curled from the blackened soil. The scent of silver blood and ash hung heavy, the aftermath of his fury. Valen straightened slowly, breath ragged. His armor steamed. His hands glowed faintly red beneath the blood. He could still feel the echo of his fire devouring everything and everyone it touched. The memory of her face rose like smoke in his mind. The woman who had once dared love him before the bloodfire burned through his control. Before she turned to ash in his arms. "Enough," he muttered, slamming his clawed gauntlet into the ground. The molten light dimmed, retreating beneath his skin like a chained beast. For a moment, the world was still. The forest, the bodies, the silence, all bowed to the curse that ruled him. He lifted his gaze toward the bleeding moon. "So this is my kingdom," he murmured bitterly. "A graveyard of things I couldn't save." But then something shifted. A whisper brushed the night air, too soft to be sound. A heartbeat. Steady. Calm. Alive. Valen froze. The fire inside him quieted. He turned toward the northern woods. A breeze drifted through the charred trees, carrying the faintest trace of wild herbs and moonlight. It wasn't fear. It wasn't death. It was something else, something that shouldn't exist near him. Peace. He took an involuntary step toward it, chest tightening. The bloodfire flared in confusion, then softened. For the first time in years, the beast inside him didn't rage. It listened. He didn't know her name, didn't know her face. But that heartbeat, that impossible calm, wrapped around him like the memory of something sacred. And beneath the crimson moon, the Leaken King felt something he hadn't felt in lifetimes. Hope. As the last of the flames faded, the night whispered a promise, one the moon itself seemed to seal. The beast had found the heartbeat meant to quiet his fire. Chapter 2. The Healer's Name. By dawn, the fires had died, leaving only smoke and silence. The borderlands stretched endlessly before him, a scar of charred soil and broken trees marking another night claimed by his curse. Valen stood at the edge of the battlefield, cloak torn, armor scorched. Beneath the steel, his veins still pulsed faintly with molten light. The bloodfire was never truly gone. It only slept. But through the fading embers, that strange calm lingered, that faint pulse in the air that had stilled the rage in his chest. It hadn't been imagination. He'd felt it, like a whisper against his soul. He turned his head toward the northern woods. The breeze that came from there was cool and sweet, tinged with the scent of wild herbs and moon petal, the same scent that had quieted his fire. "Report," he said, his voice low but edged with command. General Karan bowed stiffly, avoiding his king's eyes. "The rogues were scattered, my liege. We lost 6. The healers will tend to the rest." Valen's joy tightened. Healers. The word felt like a mockery. No healer could touch him without being burned alive. None had dared try since the bloodfire first took him. But as he turned away, another scout approached, younger, breathless, eyes wide with superstition. My king, there's talk from the villages near Edgewood. Speak, Valen ordered. They say, a rogue she-wolf lives there. A healer. The scout's voice trembled. She's said to heal wounds silver cannot. Some claim she bears a mark, one that glows beneath the moon. The men nearby murmured. Even hardened soldiers couldn't hide the unease in their eyes. Magic. Curses. Legends. Valen stilled. A mark that glows. Rumors, Coran muttered. Old wives' tales. But Valen's gaze drifted back toward the northern wind, where that impossible calm had found him. Send no one near Edgewood, he said finally, his tone unreadable. Coran blinked. My king. I said no one. Valen turned his back to the forest. Let ghosts heal ghosts if they wish. We have a war to fight. Yet, even as he strode away, the name Edgewood pulsed in his mind, syncing with that phantom heartbeat he couldn't forget. By nightfall, the skies darkened once more, this time heavy with the scent of rain. The blood fire inside him flickered weakly, weary after days of suppression. He rode alone beyond the outpost walls, needing distance from his men, from their fear. The wind shifted again. Moonlight broke through the clouds, soft, silver, unthreatening. And then came the sound of wings, a hawk, soaring low, clutching something that gleamed red in its talons. It dropped the object before him and vanished into the dark. Valen dismounted, frowning. It was a strip of cloth, crimson silk, faintly glowing. A sigil was etched into it in moonlight ink, a crescent entwined with a thorned vine. He knew that mark. He'd seen it once, years ago, in an old prophecy scroll his seer had burned. The healer of the unburned. A woman destined to calm the cursed flame. He tightened his fist around the cloth, and for the briefest moment, his skin did not burn it to ash. A drop of rain struck his cheek, sizzling slightly where it met the faint glow beneath his skin. He looked toward the storm gathering over Edgewood's distant hills. Fate, he muttered bitterly, mounting his horse. You mock me again. Lightning flashed, splitting the sky, and in its glow, his eyes shimmered gold. He spurred his steed forward. Toward Edgewood. Toward the heartbeat that dared quiet his fire. Chapter 3. Touch of the Unburned. The storm came fast, too fast. Thunder cracked across the sky like an angry god, and rain poured in sheets, hissing as it struck Valen's armor. The blood fire beneath his skin flared in protest, steam curling from his shoulders. Even the rain feared him. It never touched him for long before it boiled away. But tonight, he didn't care. He rode hard through the forest, his black stallion snorting beneath him. Lightning carved the world into fragments, dark trees, pale mist, the glint of his sword. Each flash revealed the same thing, emptiness. Until it didn't. Movement. 3 shadows leaped from the underbrush rogues. Their eyes glowed red, their forms half-shifted, feral. Cowards, Valen growled, dismounting in one fluid motion. Steel met Fong. Claws scraped against his blade. The air filled with snarls and the wet crack of bones. He moved like fire, fast, merciless, beautiful in his destruction. But then, pain. A dagger sank deep into his ribs, laced with silver and wolfsbane. His fire screamed against it, fighting to heal, but the magic within the blade bit deeper, turning his veins to ice. He staggered, still managing to drive his sword through the last rogue's chest. But the victory tasted hollow. The rain blurred his vision. The world tilted. Not now, not here. He felt his knees. His blood, dark and smoking, sizzled where it hit the earth. The blood fire sputtered, dimming with every heartbeat. For the first time in years, the pain wasn't from fire. It was from cold. Then, softness. A voice broke through the roar of rain. Gentle. Breathless. Don't move. He tried to turn toward it, but his body refused. He felt hands, small, trembling, pressing against his wound. The moment her skin touched his flesh, the impossible happened. The fire went still. The burning inside him quieted like a tamed beast. The agony eased into warmth, strange, soothing warmth. He forced his eyes open. Through the blur, he saw her. A girl kneeling beside him, soaked in rain, her hair a wild curtain of dark curls clinging to her cheeks. The moonlight made her skin glow faintly, and beneath her collarbone, a mark shimmered, a crescent entwined with thorns. The mark from the prophecy. Her voice quivered, but she didn't pull away. Your blood, it's burning. Run, he rasped, his voice rough, almost inhuman. I'll kill you if you stay. I don't think you will. She pressed harder, her palms steady now. You don't burn me. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. Only rain. Only breath. The glow beneath his skin faded entirely, replaced by something new. Something fragile. Something dangerous. He felt her pulse beneath her fingers, fast but steady. And in that rhythm, his own heartbeat aligned, slow and strong. Who are you? He whispered. Her eyes, soft, wolf-bright, met his. Lyra. The sound of her name struck him like prophecy made flesh. Rest now, she murmured. You'll live. He tried to speak, to ask how she knew, but the world went dark before he could. The last thing he heard was her voice, low and certain. You don't burn me, Valen. Maybe you were never meant to. Chapter 4. Beneath the Quiet Moon. The world came back in pieces. The scent of wild herbs. The crackle of a low fire. The faint hum of a woman's voice, soft, steady, like sunlight breaking through fog. Valen's lashes fluttered open. The ceiling above him was rough wood, the scent of cedar thick in the air. He lay on a bed that was far too soft for a warrior's back. Alive. For a moment, he didn't believe it. The last thing he remembered was blood, rain, and the girl who had touched him without burning. His chest tightened. He sat up too quickly. Pain lanced through his side, sharp and punishing. A groan slipped from his lips. Don't, a voice said gently. You'll tear it open again. He turned his head. She was there, by the hearth. The woman from the forest. Her dark curls were braided loosely over one shoulder, her skin still faintly luminous in the firelight. She wasn't dressed like a noblewoman or a village girl, but something in between earth and moon woven into form. Her eyes met his, calm but wary. You heal fast. But not fast enough to play hero yet. He stared, the words slow to register. Where am I? My home, she said simply, turning back to stir a bowl of something fragrant. Edgewood. Edgewood. The cursed borderland. The name alone made his pulse kick. He studied her, the way she moved, graceful but unafraid. You brought me here? She nodded. You were dying. I don't usually take in strangers, but her gaze flickered toward his wound. Something told me you weren't meant to die tonight. His jaw tightened. You shouldn't have touched me. I noticed, she said softly. But you didn't burn me, remember? The words hit harder than they should have. He swung his legs over the bed. The blanket slipped, revealing the bandages wrapping his ribs. A faint glow pulsed beneath them, the mark of his blood fire trying and failing to rise. How long? He asked. 2 days. He froze. 2 days of vulnerability. Of weakness. He was the Leakin king, he couldn't afford it. Where are my warriors? Her expression darkened slightly. No one followed you here. You were alone. Alone. The word pressed against his ribs harder than the wound. He glanced at her again, the mark at her throat catching the light. What is that? She didn't flinch. A curse. Or a reminder. Depends who you ask. He rose despite the pain. The fire inside him stirred, not anger this time, but something far more dangerous. Curiosity. I've seen that mark before, he murmured. In the prophecy of the moon's chosen. Lyra's fingers stilled. For a heartbeat, silence filled the room, heavy, electric. Prophecies are for kings and killers, she said finally. Not for people like me. He took a step closer. Maybe you're both. Her breath caught, just slightly. The air between them thickened, humming with something ancient. Then, from outside, a low howl echoed through the night, long, mournful, familiar. Rogues. Lyra's gaze flicked to the window. They've been circling since last night, she whispered. They smell the blood fire. Valen's instincts surged. Then they'll come for me. No, she said, voice steady. They'll come for us. Their eyes locked, wolf to wolf, fate to flame. In that moment, the fire beneath his skin flared again, but this time, it didn't hurt. It burned for her. Chapter 5. fire and moonlight. The first window shattered before either of them breathed again. Glass scattered like stars across the floor. The fire roared higher. And from the darkness beyond the trees came the growls, low, guttural, hungry. Lyra's pulse kicked. Her wolf stirred restlessly beneath her skin. "They're here," she whispered. Valen was already moving. Despite the bandages, despite the blood loss, his instincts snapped awake. He grabbed the sword leaning against the wall, the metal hissing as his blood fire flared along the blade's edge. "Stay behind me." She almost laughed. "You're in no shape to command anyone, my king." He froze. "You know who I am?" "Your arrogance gave you away," she said, lifting her hands. Power shimmered between her fingers, pale silver light that pulsed like moonlight caught in glass. "Now stop talking and fight." Before he could respond, the door burst open. 3 rogues lunged inside, wild eyes, matted fur, jaws dripping crimson foam. Valen met the first midair, his sword slicing through muscle and bone. The second tackled him from behind, claws raking across his shoulder. Pain ignited, fire and fury intertwined. Lyra moved like wind. Her energy swept outward in a brilliant arc, slamming the rogue against the wall. The scent of burnt fur filled the air. The third wolf lunged at her throat. Her hand shot up, catching its jaw. Her mark, the cursed scar, flared pure white. The beast screamed. And, just like that, it crumbled to ash. Valen turned, panting, his blade still burning. The remaining rogue staggered, whimpering. He met the king's eyes and froze. The blood fire pulsed. Valen's pupils narrowed. "Run," he growled. The rogue bolted through the open door, tail tucked. Silence followed, broken only by the crackle of flames and Lyra's ragged breathing. Valen lowered his sword slowly. The glow beneath his skin still shimmered, but it didn't consume him. Not this time. Because she was near. Her glow dimmed, leaving her pale and trembling. She pressed a hand to the table for balance. He crossed the distance before he knew he'd moved. "You're hurt." She shook her head. "Just drained. It takes a lot to channel the moon's energy through me." He frowned. "You wield lunar power." She smiled faintly. "You wield fire. I guess we're opposites." "Or balance," he murmured. Their eyes met again, fire and moonlight, danger and calm. The air between them thickened, heavy with unspoken things. He reached toward her face, hesitating just before his fingers brushed her cheek. Her mark glowed softly under his touch, silver against his crimson fire. "You really don't burn," he whispered. "And you," she said, voice barely audible, "don't scare me." For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to that space between them, the crackle of heat, the whisper of her breath, the sound of his pulse pounding in his ears. But then, from beyond the cottage, another howl rose. Deeper. Louder. More were coming. Valen's joy tightened. "They'll scent the blood. We can't stay here." Lyra looked toward the forest. "Then where?" He met her gaze. "North. To my stronghold." Her brow furrowed. "Your people don't take kindly to outsiders." "They will," he said, voice low and certain, "when they see you." Something in his tone made her heart stumble. She didn't understand it yet, but deep down, she knew the truth. This was only the beginning. As the moon rose higher, its light spilled through the broken window, bathing them both in silver and flame. And, just like that, fate began to move. Chapter 6. Through the Bloodwood Forest. The fire consumed the last of Lyra's cottage as they slipped into the night. Smoke curled upward, staining the moonlight. The forest loomed before them, ancient, thick, and alive with whispers. Lyra clutched the small satchel pressed to her chest, the only thing she'd saved. Behind her, Valen moved like a shadow, silent but burning, his energy seeping into the air around them. "Keep close," he said. His voice was rough, low, and too calm for a man still bleeding. "I am close," she muttered, pushing a branch aside. "You're the one walking like the forest owes you tribute." He glanced back, one brow raised. "You mock your king easily." "I mock anyone who forgets they're still mortal," she said, matching his stride. "You may heal fast, but you're not invincible." Valen stopped. The moonlight caught his face, sharp angles and weary eyes. Invincible. His lips curved without humor. If only. I carry a curse that kills everything it touches. Lyra tilted her head. Not everything. He looked at her hand, her fingers faintly glowing as she brushed her mark. You still think I won't burn you? I don't think, she said softly. I know. For a moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the sound of wind whispering through the trees. Then, from somewhere deep in the woods, a howl answered. Valen's gaze snapped toward the sound. They're tracking us. He gripped his sword tighter, the faint glow of his bloodfire lighting the path ahead. We'll reach the river by dawn. The current will cover our scent. They pressed on, feet crunching over frost and dead leaves. The bloodwood forest grew darker, its trees black-veined and ancient. Strange eyes watched from the shadows. Lyra whispered, "This place feels wrong." "It's cursed," Valen said. "Long before my reign. The earth remembers every drop of spilled blood here." "Then it should remember yours too," she said, glancing at him. "Because you bleed like any man." That earned her a quiet chuckle. "You're brave, healer." "Or foolish." "Both," he said. "It's a dangerous mix." The path narrowed until they were forced close, shoulder to shoulder. His heat brushed against her arm, seeping through her cloak. She tried to focus on the trail, but her pulse betrayed her. When he stumbled slightly, she reached out instinctively, steadying him. Her hand met his chest. And the world stilled. The blood fire beneath his skin surged bright, furious, and then, impossibly, it softened. The energy that once burned everything it touched now hummed quietly, as though soothed by her touch. Valen stared at her, stunned. "You. Don't talk," she said, voice trembling. "Just keep walking." He didn't argue. But his hand brushed hers briefly as they continued, and the silent spark between them lingered long after the contact broke. By the time the first light of dawn touched the horizon, they reached the riverbank. Mist rolled above the water like breath over glass. Lyra knelt, filling a small flask. "We'll need rest. You're weakening again." Valen crouched beside her, eyes fixed on the current. "If we stop, they'll catch us. Then I'll make sure you're strong enough to fight." He turned to her slowly, his expression unreadable. "Why?" Lyra met his gaze without hesitation. "Because I think the moon led me to you for a reason." For the first time, his mask cracked. His throat worked, but no words came. The curse within him stirred, but it didn't rage. It listened. And though neither said it aloud, both felt it. Their fates were no longer separate. Chapter 7. The fire beneath his skin. Mist drifted off the river like ghostly smoke, veiling the dawn in silver. Lyra wrung the water from her cloak, glancing at Valen's reflection on the water's surface. He looked almost human there, tired, quiet, and unbearably beautiful. Almost. She didn't notice the shift in the wind until the birds stopped singing. "Valen." He stilled. Every muscle in his body tensed. "They've found us." Before she could speak, a sound split the silence, low growls, echoing from both sides of the riverbank. Shadows flickered in the fog, rogues, eyes glowing red, their claws scraping against whetstone. Valen's hand went to his sword. "Stay behind me." Lyra reached for his arm. "You're still healing." The growl that left his throat wasn't entirely human. "Now, Lyra." She backed away, heart pounding as the rogues emerged, half-shifted wolves, reeking of blood and rage. They surrounded them in a tightening circle. "Bring me the king's head," one snarled. "And the witch's mark with it." The first attacker lunged. Valen met him midair, blade flashing in a violent arc. The strike was pure power, brutal, precise, but with every movement, the faint glow beneath his skin brightened. "Valen, your eyes." He didn't answer. His irises were burning gold, veins streaked with molten fire. The curse was rising, faster than his control could contain. Lyra's stomach dropped. She'd seen what his bloodfire could do: scorch, destroy, devour. And now she could feel it building, trembling in the air like a storm waiting to break. "Stop," she shouted as another rogue leapt toward him. But it was too late. Flame erupted from his skin, not red, but white-hot and blinding. The river hissed as steam exploded upward. The air filled with the scent of ash and ozone. The rogue screamed, consumed in an instant. Even the ground beneath him blackened. Valen! Lyra ran forward, tears stinging her eyes. Stop. You'll burn yourself. He turned toward her, half in the light, half in shadow. The fire haloed his body, making him look both divine and damned. Get back, he rasped. I can't hold it. She didn't listen. She closed the distance, stepping into the searing heat that no one else could survive. Her skin glowed where the fire touched her, but she did not burn. She pressed a trembling hand against his chest. You can hold it, she whispered. You just need to remember who you are. The fire roared. Then, slowly, impossibly, it dimmed. Steam swirled between them, curling around their faces. When the light faded, he was on his knees, breathing hard. His body trembled, smoke rising from his skin. Lyra sank beside him, cupping his face. You didn't hurt me. His gaze lifted to hers raw, almost disbelieving. No one's ever touched me when I was like that. You said your fire kills everything, she murmured. But maybe it was only waiting for the right soul to reach it. He stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, his hand came up to cover hers. The heat of him was still there, but now it felt alive. Controlled. Claimed. The river ran red with dawnlight around them, but for a brief heartbeat, everything was still. Until a distant howl shattered the silence. Valen's head snapped toward the sound, eyes narrowing. They're not done. That was no pack howl, it's a summons. Lyra felt the mark on her shoulder pulse with pain, bright and sharp. She gasped. It's him. Valen's expression darkened. Your former mate. Yes, she breathed. He's coming. The air around them grew heavy, the bond of rejection sparking with painful light. Valen's jaw tightened, his fire flaring again, protective, not destructive this time. Then let him come, he said, rising to his full height, golden fire licking at his arms. If he wants to reclaim what he threw away. He looked at her then, his voice low and rough. He'll have to walk through the fire to take you. Chapter 8. The Mate Who Let Her Burn. The wind shifted before the first howl reached them. It wasn't just sound, it was power, rippling through the air like a pulse that made the trees shudder. Lyra's body froze. The burning on her shoulder flared like a brand being pressed against her flesh. Her knees buckled, a cry escaping her lips. Lyra, Valen caught her before she hit the ground. His touch steadied her, but the mark on her shoulder glowed through her tunic, silver and scarlet intertwined. He's close, she gasped, clutching her shoulder. He's pulling at the bond. Valen's eyes hardened, his fire stirring beneath his skin. Then let him pull. He'll find I'm not as forgiving as the moon. A crack echoed through the trees. Then another. Heavy footsteps crushed the undergrowth until the forest opened into a moonlit clearing. And there he was. Eldrick. The man who had rejected her. He was taller than Lyra remembered, his golden hair matted from travel, his once gentle eyes now sharp and feral. Behind him stood two of his enforcers, wolves loyal enough to follow him even into madness. Lyra. His voice was deep, rough. You shouldn't be here. Lyra stepped back, every instinct screaming to run. You made sure of that the day you cast me out. Eldrick's jaw tightened. His eyes flicked to Valen, and the change in him was instant. A predator seeing another predator. Who is he? Valen didn't move. The one you should have protected. Eldrick's nostrils flared. You dare claim her? I don't claim what's not mine, Valen said evenly, stepping forward, his presence vast and consuming. But she isn't yours anymore. The air crackled between them, charged with raw dominance. Lyra could feel it, the clash of alpha and Leakin, power older than bloodlines. The mark on her shoulder burned so fiercely she thought it would split open her skin. Eldrick's voice dropped low. You think you understand her? She carries my mark. My rejection. My pain. You don't know what she's done. Enough. Lyra's shout ripped through the clearing, cutting through their power like lightning. Both men stilled. She was shaking, tears burning her eyes, but she stood tall. You threw me away, Eldrick. You told me I was weak. Unworthy. You left me to die because I reminded you of your fear. Eldric's face twisted, guilt and anger at war. I had to. You don't know what I saw, the curse. I lived it, she cried. Every night. Every burn. And yet I survived. Without you. The silence that followed was suffocating. Valen took a slow step forward, his voice quiet but sharp as steel. She doesn't belong to your shadows anymore, Wolf. She stands in my fire now. Eldric's eyes flashed amber. Then you'll burn with her. He lunged. The world erupted into chaos, claws, fire, and moonlight colliding. Valen met him mid-strike, their power shaking the clearing. Lyra staggered back, the shockwave of their clash sending sparks flying. Valen's bloodfire roared to life, golden flames surrounding his body, but this time it didn't lash out wildly. It moved with purpose, like it recognized who the enemy was. Eldric snarled, fangs bared. You can't protect her from the bond, Leakin. It's mine. Lyra's mark pulsed again, agony slicing through her nerves. She screamed, dropping to her knees. Both men froze. The glow on her shoulder grew brighter, threads of silver unraveling into the air, and, from within that light, something shifted. The rejection mark cracked open. It wasn't pain anymore, it was release. Valen's head snapped toward her, eyes wide. Lyra, what are you? Her voice trembled, but her eyes glowed faintly blue, the mark transforming before their eyes. I'm ending this bond. The moon above flared, its light spilling down like molten silver. Eldric's shout of protest was lost in the roar of the wind as the mark shattered in a burst of light. When it was over, Lyra collapsed, breathing hard, the skin of her shoulders smooth, unmarked. Valen caught her before she hit the ground, his heart pounding. She's free, he whispered. Eldric stared in horror, the glow fading from his eyes. No, this isn't possible. But Lyra looked up at him, her voice steady, soft, almost merciful. It is. Because I finally chose me. Eldric took a step back, grief and fury twisting across his face. Then, without another word, he shifted, his wolf vanishing into the dark forest, leaving nothing but silence behind. Valen cradled her against his chest, brushing her hair back. You severed the bond. I had to, she whispered. Or it would have destroyed us both. He nodded, his expression unreadable, proud, awed, and quietly broken. The moonlight painted them both in silver fire. And in that stillness, Lyra realized the curse that had chained her was gone. But the bond forming in its place burned even brighter. Chapter 9. The Fire That Chose Her. The night had gone still, unnaturally still. Even the forest seemed to be holding its breath. Valen knelt beside Lyra, his arms wrapped around her limp form. Her skin was cold, but her pulse fluttered faintly against his chest. Beneath his hands, a faint light shimmered, not the silver of her old mark, but gold. Soft, alive, ancient. He swallowed hard, the weight of it sinking into him. You shouldn't glow like that, he murmured, voice hoarse. Not unless the moonfire has chosen you. The air trembled, carrying the faint echo of something divine. The fire that once destroyed everything he touched now circled around her like it was, protecting her. Before he could move, her fingers twitched. Her eyes opened slowly, and the world changed. Her irises weren't blue anymore. They burned faintly gold, the same hue as his blood fire. The same fire that had cursed him his entire life. Valen, her voice was soft, unsure. Did I? You did. He swallowed. You broke the bond. Completely. She pushed herself upright, wincing as the wind stirred her hair. Then why does it still feel like something's burning inside me? He didn't answer right away. Because he knew. Because the moment she shattered that cursed connection, the blood fire that lived in him had recognized her, claimed her. The moonfire didn't destroy her. It merged. Still, he couldn't tell her that yet. Not when the truth might frighten her away. Instead, he reached out and brushed a stray lock of hair from her face. Your body's still recovering. You drew on power older than either of us understands. She met his gaze, confusion flickering across her face. Then why are you looking at me like that? Like what? Like you've seen a ghost. Valen almost smiled, but the pain behind it was real. Because maybe I have. Before she could speak again, a sound echoed through the trees, a low rumble, followed by distant howls. Not rogues. Not Eldrick's pack. Something else. Lyra's head whipped toward the sound. They're coming. He nodded grimly. Not for me. For you. Her heart lurched. Why me? Because of what you carry now. He stood, his hand extended to help her up. The moonfire isn't just power. It's a call. Every creature tied to the old bloodlines can feel it. And some will want it for themselves. Lyra stared down at her glowing palm, a faint gold shimmer pulsing beneath her skin. I didn't ask for this. No one ever does, he said quietly. But fate doesn't care what we ask for. She clenched her fist, the light fading. Then we fight. Valen's lips curved, not in amusement, but pride. You sound like a queen. The word hit her harder than it should have. Queen. Her pulse stumbled, her chest tightening as she looked at him. Don't call me that. Why not? Because it sounds like you believe it. He stepped closer, close enough for the heat of his power to brush her skin. Maybe I do. The silence that followed was heavy charged. Their eyes locked, her golden fire meeting his. In the span of a breath, the air between them crackled. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, restless, uncertain. She didn't know what scared her more, the bond she'd broken, or the one forming right now. Before she could think, his hand brushed her cheek. A spark jumped between them, bright enough to make her gasp. Valen, she whispered. His voice dropped, low and rough. You carry my fire now. Whether you realize it or not. Her world tilted. What are you saying? He hesitated, eyes flicking toward the dark horizon where more howls echoed. That your destiny just changed, Lyra. Because of me. And just like that, the first embers of dawn appeared between the trees, gold and red, like fire reborn. Lyra looked toward it, feeling the warmth against her skin. Deep down, she knew the truth. Something ancient had awakened inside her. And fate wasn't done with them yet. Chapter 10. The Fortress of Fire and Fear. By the time the first light bled over the horizon, the forest had fallen silent again. Smoke rose where the bloodfire had touched the earth, leaving glowing embers scattered among the roots like fallen stars. Lyra walked beside Valen, wrapped in his cloak, the edges dragging through the dew-soaked grass. Every step made her legs tremble, but she refused to slow down. You don't have to pretend, he said quietly, his tone unreadable. You're still weak from what happened. She lifted her chin. You're still bleeding. He glanced down. True. A streak of dried blood ran from his ribs where the silver dagger had torn him open. Fair point, he murmured. But I'm harder to kill. Then stop talking like you're already dead. His eyes flicked toward her, gold and dangerous in the morning light. You'd rather I lie to you? Maybe I'd rather you try to live. The silence that followed was sharp. Still, something in it softened him. They reached a narrow path winding up a rocky hill. From there, the land opened and the fortress came into view. It rose from the cliffs like it had grown there, forged from black stone and molten veins of gold that pulsed faintly with Valen's power. A bridge of charred wood spanned a deep ravine, guarded by soldiers in crimson armor. When they saw him approach, they dropped to one knee, but not one of them looked at him directly. Your Majesty, one stammered. We felt your fire. We feared the worst. You fear too easily, Valen replied, his voice low. Stand down. As they obeyed, their gazes slid to Lyra. Whispers rippled through the ranks. A human? A witch. Why is she glowing? Lyra felt their eyes like knives, but she stood tall beside him. One of the captains stepped forward, tall, scarred, his expression taut with disapproval. Who is she, my king? Valen didn't hesitate. She saved my life. The captain frowned. That's not possible. The bloodfire destroys anything that touches it. Then maybe it's not my fire she carries, Valen said. Gasps murmured through the soldiers. The captain's hand fell to his sword. That mark on her, it shines like yours. Lyra felt heat crawl up her neck. I didn't ask for it. Silence, girl, the man snapped. Do you know who you stand before? Before she could answer, Valen's voice cracked like thunder. Enough. The air shimmered. A wave of power rolled out from him, hot enough to make the air distort. The captain fell to one knee, gasping. "Speak to her like that again," Valen said softly, "and you'll burn where you stand." The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the fire in the walls seemed to pause. Lyra stared at him, not with fear, but with something deeper. He had just defended her in front of his men. Claimed her in a way words couldn't undo. "Come," he said, turning away. "You'll rest inside." She followed him across the courtyard, the soldiers parting like shadows before a storm. Inside, the fortress was alive with whispers of magic. The walls breathed faintly, veins of molten gold glowing in rhythm with Valen's pulse. He led her to a chamber lit by a single flame suspended in air. It hummed softly, almost like it knew her. "This place feels alive," she murmured. "It is," he replied. "The fire listens. It remembers those who touch it." Lyra turned to him slowly. "And what will it remember of me?" He stepped closer, the faintest smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "That you did what no one else could." "And what's that?" His gaze locked on hers. "You made the fire bow." Her breath caught. For a moment, neither spoke. The air thickened, not from heat, but from something far more dangerous. In that silence, his hand brushed hers, brief, unintentional, yet enough to make the flames flicker brighter. She pulled back, whispering, "You shouldn't look at me like that." "And how should I look at you?" "Like I'm not the reason you almost burned." "Lyra," he said softly, "you're the reason I stopped." The words hung in the air, glowing like embers refusing to die. Chapter 11. Fire Among Shadows. The fortress never truly slept. Even in the dead of night, torches hissed along the corridors, fed by the strange molten veins that pulsed through the black stone. Every few heartbeats, Lyra could feel it, the faint thrum of power that seemed to echo her own pulse. She sat by the high window of the chamber Valen had given her, watching the mountain winds stir the crimson banners below. Somewhere deep in the halls, metal clanged, warriors training before dawn. And beyond that, she could sense him. Valen. A flame in the dark, always burning, always near. Her fingers drifted to the faint scar at her wrist, the mark that shimmered whenever she thought of him. It pulsed softly now, like it knew he was awake too. A knock broke the silence. She turned, expecting Valen, but it was not him. An older woman entered, wrapped in dark robes embroidered with silver runes. Her eyes, pale as moonlight, studied Lyra with thinly veiled suspicion. "You shouldn't be here," the woman said without preamble. "The king's chambers are no place for the unmarked." Lyra stood. "I didn't ask to be here." "That makes no difference. You carry something that doesn't belong to you." The woman's gaze lowered to Lyra's glowing wrist. "The bloodfire doesn't share its host." Lyra frowned. "You think I stole it?" "I think the fire made a mistake," the woman said coldly. "And mistakes must be corrected." Before Lyra could respond, the air behind the woman rippled with heat. Valen appeared in the doorway, eyes burning molten gold. "Enough, Mara." The seer bowed, but her jaw tightened. "My king, this human, is under my protection," Valen interrupted, his tone cutting through the room like steel. "You will not question her again." Mara's eyes flicked between them, suspicion darkening her expression. Protection, sire, or obsession? The air tightened. For a heartbeat, Lyra thought the flames in the walls might erupt. Valen took one step forward, not with fury, but with a quiet, lethal calm. "Go," he said. The seer bowed again, this time lower. "As you command, my king." When she left, the heat in the room subsided, but the silence she left behind was heavy. Lyra exhaled shakily. "She doesn't like me." "She doesn't like anyone she can't predict," Valen replied, his voice low. "She reads fate in fire. You burn too differently." Lyra turned toward him. "You could have told me she'd come." "I didn't expect her this soon," he said, crossing the room. "But she's right about one thing, the mark shouldn't have passed to you." "Then why did it?" Lyra asked. "When I touched you, why didn't your fire destroy me?" He paused, his expression unreadable. "Because it chose you." "Fire doesn't choose," she whispered. "It does when it's alive," he said. "The bloodfire isn't just a curse, Lyra. It's a spirit, ancient, willful. It bonds to power it recognizes. He looked at her, eyes gleaming like twin embers. You carry moonlight in your veins. I felt it the moment you touched me. She blinked, heart hammering. Moonlight. He nodded. Old magic. Lost when the first healers vanished. You were never meant to stay hidden in the woods. Her breath caught. So you brought me here, to use me? His expression softened, the faintest hint of regret. No. I brought you here because I can't stop the fire when you're not near. Lyra froze. You mean? I calm it. You silence it, he said quietly. You silence me. The admission hung between them, fragile and fierce. He took a step closer. The air warmed, pulsing in rhythm with their joined heartbeats. Lyra wanted to step back, but the heat that radiated from him was both terrifying and magnetic. Valen, she whispered. If your people find out. They already suspect, he said. But I don't care what they think. His hand hovered near her cheek, close enough that she could feel the tremor in his control. I should, he said, more to himself than her. But I don't. The glow from the wall fire deepened, as if echoing the pulse between them. She reached up, fingers brushing his wrist, and the flames brightened instantly, wrapping the room in molten gold light. Both of them gasped. The mark on her wrist and his chest burned in the same rhythm, synchronized. Then, as suddenly as it came, the glow faded. The fire dimmed to silence. Lyra stepped back, breath trembling. What was that? Valen looked down at his chest, then at her, awe and dread mingling in his eyes. It's begun, he said softly. What has? The binding. Chapter 12. The Bond of Flame and Moonlight. Lyra didn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, heat pulsed through her veins, not painful, but alive. The fire wasn't burning her, it was listening. And somewhere deep within that warmth, she could feel him. Valen. His heartbeat thudded like a distant drum, steady, powerful, as if their souls had found a rhythm that refused to separate. She rose from her bed, barefoot on the cool obsidian floor, and pressed her hand against the wall. Beneath her palm, the stone pulsed faintly. He's awake too. Down in the training hall, Valen swung his blade through the air again and again, every strike sparking light against the enchanted walls. His muscles ached, not from exhaustion, but from restraint. He could still feel her. Every emotion, every shiver, even the way her pulse quickened when she thought of him. It was madness, beautiful and terrifying. He gripped the sword hilt tighter, jaw clenched. This cannot be happening. It has already begun, said a voice behind him. Valen turned sharply. Elder Kilrick, his war advisor, and one of the few not afraid to speak, stood at the edge of the room, leaning on his staff. His silver eyes gleamed with grim understanding. The binding isn't a myth, my king, Kilrick said. It's the union of fire and moonblood, a power that could either save or destroy us all. Valen exhaled sharply. I never asked for it. Fate doesn't ask, the elder murmured. It chooses. And you, my lord, are chosen, whether you will it or not. Meanwhile, Lyra wandered through the silent corridors of the fortress, drawn by something she couldn't name. Her mark pulsed brighter the closer she came to the great hall, until the heavy doors creaked open on their own. She gasped softly. A mural stretched across the wall, carved in shimmering stone, half gold, half silver. It depicted two figures, a woman cloaked in moonlight and a man wreathed in flame, their hands reaching but never touching. At their feet, the world burned and bloomed at once. Lyra stepped closer, fingertips brushing the cold stone. What is this place? History, came a low voice behind her. She turned. Valen stood there, bare-chested, sword still at his side, his eyes glowing faintly from training. The torchlight played across his skin, glinting off the faint markings that seemed to glow in sync with her own. This mural, she whispered, it looks like us, he finished. It's an old prophecy. Fire and moonblood, bound to end a curse or unleash it. Lyra swallowed. And which do you think we'll do? I don't know, he admitted, stepping closer. But I do know this. The fire within me has never felt peace until you touched it. Her pulse fluttered. You talk like it's alive. It is, he said, eyes locking on hers. And it wants you. Before she could answer, pain suddenly lanced through her chest, heat and light exploding behind her eyes. She gasped and stumbled forward. Lyra. Valen caught her as she fell. The heat around them surged. His hands glowed red, but she didn't burn. Images flooded her vision, flashes of lives not her own. A woman bathed in moonlight weeping beside a burning pyre. A man of fire kneeling before her, whispering her name. A promise. A curse. A kiss that shattered empires. Then darkness. When Lyra's eyes opened again, she was lying in Valen's arms, his face pale with fear. What did you see? He asked, voice trembling despite his usual control. She looked up at him, and for the first time, she wasn't sure if what she'd seen was past or future. I saw us, she whispered. Dying. Together. Valen's joy tightened. Then fate will burn before I let it happen. Their marks glowed again, twin lights of fire and moonlight twining together like threads of destiny. Neither noticed the shadows watching from the balcony above. Mara, the seer, her eyes wide with dread. So it's true, she whispered to herself. The prophecy has awakened, and if they bond completely, the blood fire will rise again. Chapter 13. The Crown and the Curse. The morning after the binding flare, the fortress no longer felt safe. Servants avoided Lyra in the halls. Guards averted their eyes when she passed, murmuring prayers under their breath. Everywhere she walked, silence followed, thick, suffocating, sharp as judgment. By midday, word had reached even the lowest ranks. The king's curse has found its mate. In the throne hall, Valen stood before the full council, elders, generals, highborn lichens draped in black and crimson. Their gazes followed him like wolves scenting weakness. Elder Kelric spoke first. My king, your power surged last night. The blood fire almost cracked the wards. What happened? Valen's gaze swept over them, calm but dangerous. It was not rage that broke them. It was awakening. A murmur rippled through the court. General Arthian, a man of scars and ambition, leaned forward. Awakening? Of what? Or whom? The binding, Valen said simply. The prophecy has chosen. The moon blood has returned. Gasps. Growls. Someone slammed a fist on the table. Kelric's voice shook. You cannot mean the girl, the healer? The woman who saved my life, Valen corrected coldly. She bears the mark. Arthian rose, eyes gleaming like steel. That girl is a curse, not salvation. The binding destroyed the last Leaken realm 1,000 years ago. You would risk our kind again for... Enough. Valen's voice thundered through the hall, shaking the iron chandeliers. Flames flared in the sconces, bowing to his anger. You will not speak of her that way. The general froze. But in that heavy silence, Kelric's tone softened, almost pleading. My king, if the prophecy is real, then so is its warning. The blood fire will either purify or consume. If the moon blood falters, it could destroy us all. Valen's jaw flexed. Then I will make sure she never falters. Lyra heard them. She had been standing outside the door, hands trembling against the carved wood. Every word cut deeper than the last curse, destroyer, deathbringer. She turned and fled down the corridor, her mark burning under her skin like shame. When she reached the garden, she sank to her knees among the frost-tipped roses. The scent of fire lilies clung to the air, his scent, and it only made her tears fall harder. You shouldn't be here alone, came a soft voice behind her. Lyra turned. A woman in a cloak of twilight blue approached Mara, the seer. Her violet eyes gleamed with something between pity and sorrow. Lyra swallowed. They all hate me. They fear what they do not understand, Mara said gently. And you, child, are beyond understanding. Lyra's laugh cracked. That's not comforting. It isn't meant to be. The seer knelt before her, brushing the petals from Lyra's lap. You carry more than a mark. You carry choice. The prophecy speaks of two endings, one written in fire, one in moonlight. The world will burn or bloom depending on what you decide. Lyra looked up sharply. What I decide? What about Valen? Mara's eyes darkened. Even kings bow to fate when it's written in love. That night, Valen found her in the garden. The cold air shimmered around them, their breath misting between words. "You heard them," he said quietly. She didn't deny it. "They think I'll destroy you." His expression softened. "You won't. You can't know that." "I can feel it," he murmured, stepping closer. "When I lose control, your presence steadies me. When the fire rages, it bends toward you instead of devouring. You are the reason I haven't burned this kingdom to ash." Her heart clenched. "And if that changes?" He reached out, hesitating only a moment before his fingers touched her cheek. The heat of his skin was warm, not searing. "Then I'll burn with you, not against you." Lyra's breath caught as the space between them dissolved. The moon bathed them both in silver light. Her mark and his sigil flared, twin flames intertwining. But before his lips met hers, a gust of wind tore through the garden, carrying a faint, eerie whisper. "Beware the blood moon." They froze. Above, the once clear night sky bled crimson, the moon turning red as blood. Valen's eyes blazed gold. "It's too soon," he growled. "The omen." Lyra gripped his arm, her pulse racing. "What does it mean?" He stared up at the sky, expression grim. "It means our enemies know. And they're coming." Chapter 14. Blood Moon Rising. The alarm bells shattered the silence. Their echo rolled through the fortress like thunder, shaking stone and bone alike. Lyra's heart hammered as crimson light bled across the courtyard. The blood moon hung low and swollen, staining everything in shades of scarlet, like the world itself was on fire. "What's happening?" she gasped. Valen's eyes flickered gold, then black, then gold again, his control fraying. "They're here." Before she could ask who, the air split with the sound of 100 howls. From the tree line beyond the walls, dark shapes poured through the mist, wolves, dozens of them, their eyes glowing with the madness of the blood fire. Rogues. But not just rogues. Valen's nostrils flared. "No, these are marked." He drew his blade, the black steel pulsing with red runes. "This isn't random. Someone sent them." Moments later, the gates exploded inward. The courtyard erupted into chaos, steel, fur, and flame colliding under the bloodmoon's glow. Lyra stumbled back as 2 guards were thrown past her, bodies torn by claws. "Get to the healer's wing," a soldier shouted, but she barely heard him. Her mark pulsed, burning hotter with every scream that rang through the air. She felt it, the rage, the pain, the call. Valen roared, shifting mid-stride. His form exploded outward, black fur rippling, his eyes molten gold. The blood fire burst from his body like a living inferno, devouring everything in its path. The rogues faltered, but not for long. Their own blood fire gleamed under their skin, dim and corrupted. Controlled. "Who's doing this?" Lyra whispered, clutching her chest as her mark seared. "Why does it hurt?" A hand gripped her shoulder, Mara's. The seer's face was pale. "Because they're using your bond. They're trying to break it." "How?" "Through him." Meanwhile, Valen was losing control. Every movement sent shockwaves of heat through the courtyard. His soldiers backed away, afraid to be consumed. He struck down a rogue, then another, but each death only fed the fire inside him. "It's too much," his mind screamed. "I'll burn her. I'll burn everything." "Valen." Lyra's voice cut through the chaos like silver through smoke. He turned, and for a heartbeat, the fire paused. She was standing at the center of the flames, hair wild, eyes bright with defiance. The fire curved around her, refusing to touch her. Her mark glowed, answering his. "Come back to me," she cried. "You're not the fire, it's part of you." He staggered forward, claws curling. "You have to leave." "I'm not leaving," she shouted, stepping closer. "You said I steady you, so let me." Her words struck something deep, primal. The beast within him hesitated. His flames wavered, dimmed. But then, from the shadows beyond the courtyard, a new figure emerged. A tall, cloaked man with silver eyes and a cruel smile. "Touching," he said softly, his voice like poison silk. "But your fire doesn't belong to you anymore, King." Valen's head snapped up. "Who are you?" The stranger raised his hand, and at his command, the rogues stopped mid-attack, their eyes glazing over. "The blood fire is not a curse," he said. "It's a key." And you are the door. Lyra felt her stomach drop. Valen. Before she could finish, the stranger thrust his hand outward. A surge of corrupted fire slammed into Valen's chest, throwing him across the courtyard. The shockwave shattered stone and sent Lyra sprawling. The stranger's voice echoed. The blood moon marks the beginning. The true king rises tonight. By the time the smoke cleared, Valen was gone, the courtyard scorched, the rogues vanished with their master. Lyra pushed herself to her knees, choking on dust and fear. Valen, she screamed into the night. No answer. Only the blood moon above, still burning red, and the whisper of prophecy curling through the air. When the king falls, the flame will seek the moon. Chapter 15. The Moonfire Queen. The smoke hadn't cleared. Even as dawn threatened the horizon, the air still shimmered with the scent of ash and blood. Lyra pushed herself up from the cracked courtyard stones. Her palms were bleeding, her breath ragged, but she barely felt it. What she did feel was absence. The mark on her wrist, the one that had always burned with Valen's pulse, was silent. Too silent. Valen, her whisper broke against the ruins. Please answer me. Only the wind replied. And yet, beneath the quiet, something stirred, a heartbeat, faint but fierce, echoing from deep within the forest. She didn't think. She ran. Through the shattered gates, through the smoke and claw marks, through the world that had fallen apart overnight. Her bare feet cut on stone, but she kept going. Branches clawed at her skin as she entered the wilds beyond the fortress. The forest was darker now, steeped in the bloodmoon's fading glow. Every sound felt alive. Every shadow seemed to breathe. Valen, she called again. You promised you wouldn't leave me. A whisper moved through the trees. I didn't. Her heart stuttered. Valen. She followed the voice until she reached the clearing, the same one where they first met. Only now, the ground was scorched black, and in its center lay a figure. He was half-shifted, burned, his body trembling with residual flames. His heartbeat flickered weakly in the air. Lyra fell to her knees beside him. No, stay with me. His hand twitched toward hers. You shouldn't be here. I had to find you. I told you. He coughed, blood dark against his lips. My fire destroys everything. She grabbed his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. Then let it destroy me too, if it means I don't lose you. His eyes widened, a mixture of love and terror. Lyra. The ground trembled. The crimson light surged again, brighter, hungrier. From the shadows, the silver-eyed stranger's laughter echoed. Do you see now? He mocked. The fire obeys her now. The moon has claimed the flame. Lyra turned toward him, fury rising. What did you do to him? Nothing he didn't already begin, the stranger purred. You were never meant to save him. You were meant to replace him. Rage flared so bright it hurt. But this time, the pain didn't come from her mark. It came from within. The light burst out of her, moonlight threaded with fire, wild and unyielding. The trees bent, the air cracked, and the stranger staggered back, shielding his face. Impossible, he roared. The moonfire, it can't belong to a mortal. Lyra rose slowly, hair glowing silver, her eyes burning with twin flames, gold and white. I'm not mortal anymore. The forest went still. Every heartbeat, every whisper, every star seemed to lean closer. She extended her hand toward Valen's fallen form, and the fire flowed from her, wrapping him in a gentle, silver blaze. His wounds sealed. His breathing steadied. His eyes opened, dazed but alive. Lyra, he breathed. What have you done? She smiled through tears. What I was born to. Moments later, the stranger tried to flee, but Lyra lifted her gaze, and the world obeyed. Flames rose like waves. Shadows screamed. Tell your masters, she said softly, voice trembling with new power, the moonfire has chosen. The fire surged, devouring his form until nothing remained but smoke and the faint scent of iron. In the stillness that followed, Valen struggled to sit up. You burned him, but you didn't burn me. Her hand found his. Because of you, I learned to control it. He looked at her, not as his savior, but as his equal. Then maybe it wasn't a curse after all. Lyra's gaze drifted upward, toward the pale horizon where the blood moon was finally fading. No, she whispered. It was a beginning. The first light of dawn touched her face, silver and gold blending like the fire inside her. Valen pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. So, what are you now, Lyra? She smiled faintly. The Moonfire Queen. Epilogue. Beneath the dawn. Days later, the fortress began to rebuild. The rogues were gone. The blood moon was broken. But in the ruins of the old world, something new was rising, a realm where flame and moonlight could coexist. And in the heart of it, two souls walked side by side, no longer cursed, no longer lost, bound by the fire that once sought to destroy them. Because sometimes, the only way to survive the fire is to become it.